Most people will assume, say, God in so many ways is like us. God is not like us. God is not like anything in this universe. So this God, like I said, is not the biggest thing in this universe. He's not the smartest thing in this universe. He is beyond this universe. You can't use anything within this world to compare to God. Impenyufo, welcome to The Gospel and Life. My name is Joshua, and this is the channel that promises to show you the truth about God's gospel and how it relates to every aspect of our lives. For some time now, I've been talking about the gospel, trying to get everyone's attention to the fact that it is the most important message anyone could ever hear on this earth. So today we will just get right to business and talk about the essential details within the gospel. Before I go ahead, I want to talk about the fact that most of us know what the gospel is, at least to a certain extent. Ubisanko for what the gospel is. I'm sure that they will have some idea about this whole thing. I think some people will mention the cross, Jesus, the blood sacrifice, my sins being forgiven, and all these other things. But the major problem with this is that these concepts are understood in isolation. But what the Bible presents for us is a coherent message that spans throughout the entire Bible. The gospel doesn't begin from Matthew, Luke, or John, or any other book in the New Testament. The gospel begins from the very first book of the Bible to the end of the Bible. In the gospel, it's not as if say Jesus Christ. No, it starts from Genesis. But it's not as if say we can just start reading from Genesis to Revelation and Debbie. We have a framework through which we can understand this message called the gospel, and it is broken down into 4 categories. The first one is creation, the second one, the fall, the third one, redemption, and the last one, consummation. Creation addresses the origins of this universe. The fall talks about what went wrong to shift this universe into chaos and destruction. The third thing, redemption, addresses the solution to the problems we face in this universe. And the last one, consummation, is basically the end of everything. So with that said, I would want us to use this opportunity to go through the first category, creation. So let's just get right into it. Under creation, there's this famous verse everyone knows, Genesis 1 verse 1, which says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, this simple verse has some implications we ought to understand. The first implication is that this universe has a beginning. The second implication over here is that there is a God. The third implication is that this God created this universe. So with this out of the way, we have to answer one question under this category. Why did God create? Adintina nyankopon ebo bibi. And the simplest answer to this question is that God created for his glory, to display his attributes and take pleasure in his work. I will explain this as we move on. And the first thing I want to draw our attention to is the fact that most people will assume, say, God in so many ways is like us. And that's the mindset I would want you to erase from your mind. Let's just take into consideration our own human experiences on this earth. Why do we make things? Why do we invent? Why do we make stuff? And the simplest answer to this question is that we make things in order to contribute substantially to our experience on this earth. simple in some way or the other. No, it contributes to our existence to the extent says sometimes crampo, the things we make, we end up being dependent on them. You just imagine a world where there are no cars. Imagine a world where technology wouldn't have come up with certain things like mobile phones, computers, and all that stuff. The world would have been much different than we see today. The point I would want to make over here is that when we make things, the logical understanding over here is that they contribute and make our lives and existence much easier, much bearable, and in so many ways more comfortable. The reason I am drawing our attention to this concept is because of the fact that most of us will be drawn to the conclusion, say, oh, enam so nyankopon decide say obe create bibi, that would have meant say God needed something, and that is not the conclusion I would want anyone to reach. God did not create because he needed anything or that he lacked something within him, or like to say, he wanted something external of him to contribute to his existence. Dabi, that is not what the Bible presents to us. God's creation is something that he is not dependent on. God doesn't need his creation. The relationship is the other way around. His creation rather finds meaning, purpose, and every other good thing in the one who created it, God. So God's act of creation in Yoma bono, trees, livestock, seas, everything in this universe, the stars, the sun, the Milky Way, whatever you can think about, all these things are to find their meaning within God. Most of us, and I'm not saying this to be judgmental or anything, most of us would go to the conclusion or be drawn to think, say, God is in some sense like us. I will have to stress on this point so many times because it is a very problematic mindset. God is not like us. God is not like anything in this universe. So when I think about God, when I consider who God is, I am not thinking about a human person with arms, with ears, with eyes, and who is bound by the limitations that human beings are bound by. No. I am not thinking about the largest thing in this universe. I am not thinking about the smartest thing in this universe. I am not even thinking about the most powerful thing in this universe. And the point is because God is not comparable to anything within this universe. And this is reflected in passages like Deuteronomy 4 verse 15 to 19, which says that, therefore, watch yourselves very carefully, since you saw no form on the day that the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Beware lest you act corruptly by making a carved image for yourselves in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water under the earth. And beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars and all the host of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them, things that the Lord your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven. When you take this passage into consideration, like I said, the main point is that there is nothing within this material plane, this physical existence, that you can use as a frame of reference when thinking about God. You can't use anything within this world to compare to God. So this God, like I said, is not the biggest thing in this universe. He's not the smartest thing in this universe. He is beyond this universe. So he is not within it in the sense, say, he is trapped by the same limitations that human beings and the rest of all created things experience. I am limited by how much movement I can experience. I am limited by how much strength I have. I am limited by how much knowledge I have. But God is not bound by all these things we human beings experience. God is completely other, in a category all by himself. And this is not even like a slogan, no, we have to really understand this, because when you think about God, what are you thinking about? Are you comparing him to anything within this universe? And if you are doing that, there's a problem. So the next thing I would want to talk about under this category is the uniqueness of man. Human beings are unique. Out of all the things that God created, there is a substantial amount of evidence that points to the fact that human beings, onipa, we are special, we are unique, and we are not comparable to all other created things. What makes us unique is because of the fact that God created us in his image, and this can be found in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So in this passage, we read that God created us in his image. What does it mean? Does it mean say Debbie? This means say we represent God in a certain capacity. So we being created in the image of God goes beyond we being made up of the same material as God. We are representatives, we reflect certain attributes of God, like his love, his justice, his wisdom, and his goodness. We have the capacity of knowing, understanding, and loving this God. And like the text says, we were also created to have dominion over this earth. Right, we have power over the things of this earth, and you can see this reflected in so many ventures of human experience. What other animal or species on this earth compares to the human race with regards to our capacity of rationality, with regards to our understanding, the depth of our knowledge and relational experience? And this attribute also signified our relationship with God, in the sense we were created to know this God, to love this God, and to glorify this God. And this will lead me to the last category under this whole thing concerning creation, which is, what is the purpose of creation? Again, like I stated at the very first beginning, is that everything, including human beings, were created to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And we are borrowing this answer from the Westminster Shorter Catechism, which answers by saying that man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. That's it. The purpose of us, human beings, the purpose of creation was to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Creation finds its meaning within God, not outside of God. So separating God from the equation actually renders everything meaningless. And notice another key word over here: forever. It wasn't for a short time. No, forever. We were meant to glorify God and, again, enjoy him forever. That was the intended purpose of everything within existence when they were created. Everything was good. Yes, when you read Genesis 1, 2, before Genesis 3, God declared everything good. And this goodness was not just in one sense, it reflected every aspect of creation. In terms of morality, everything was good. In terms of relations, everything was good. The man and woman were living in perfect unity. Man and God were living in perfect harmony. Man and creation were existing together in perfect harmony too. So everything, like I said, was very, very good. So then this leads us to the next logical question, and it's what happened to thrust this universe into all the chaos we see today? And that we will leave for the next episode when we talk about the fall. And in that episode, we will talk about what happened to thrust this universe into the chaos we see today, the problems, the pain, the suffering, the tears, and all these problems we see in our environments. So, in Penyufo, I've said a lot, and there is so much more to say, but I'll have to leave everything for the next episode. So, if you liked this and learned something from this, like usual, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell icon. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones so that all of us can come into a better and more coherent understanding of the gospel. You can leave your comments down in the comment section and let me know what you think about this subject called creation. So until the next time where we talk about the fall, I will see you. God bless you for listening.